Well, hello, Pastor Ray Barnett here. Good morning, good afternoon, it is for me, and good evening, depending on what time you're watching this broadcast. Just make a mention, still got problems with the allergies going on. Very nice day today. A lot of sunshine. Supposed to rain later, but finally, summer is here. A little bit of a pickup from this. Well, it's going past 3.5 months of sequestered in this quarantine. I hope my t-shirt doesn't distract you. Three brothers from Italy. Best pizza in New Jersey. Best pizza. You know, you can't beat pizza when it comes from New York City and Jersey. I live in upstate New York, foothills of the Adirondacks. 33 years here, 33 years in Yonkers, New York, Bronx, Yonkers border. And I love living here. I really do. But you can't get pizza like you do in New York or New Jersey. But anyway, can't have it all. Yeah, I didn't make a video on Friday. And I didn't make a video Monday. Been busy with different things. My dissertation, I'm going to just jump back in a minute on that. But I want to continue to speak to you on the subject of detoxing, or rather detaching and detoxing from toxic people. But let's broaden it and not just make it people. Could be situations, could be your environment. You know, change of environment sometimes is a good thing too. But we dwell in the inner environment. That's most important. In other words, you could have peace wherever you live if you have Christ. But there comes a time when a change of environment, for whatever reason, for you may be warranted. So we're not only trying to detach from toxic people, but it could be a toxic environment. I don't just mean the water is tainted, the air polluted, but it could be a toxic environment that you're living in, your neighborhood, your community. And then we could also look at, the situations. Could be your job. I mean, you can make a ton of money, but what's it worth if the sacrifice is your health, physical, your health, mental, your relationship with Christ, your relationship with your wife and family. Some things are just simply toxic. Sometimes you're called to a field where toxicity is just part of the job, and you can't really detach from that unless you give up your career and you've had enough or your time is up. But I'm trying to direct you towards this idea of controlling what you can control, because there's going to be so many things that come at us in life that we cannot control. So today I had a thought for all of you, and here's the thought. And I guess most of you have, I don't know, have ever seen the cartoon version of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. And as she's going through her adventures, she runs into the caterpillar. And of all the lines that are in Alice in Wonderland, this one always comes back to me. So he's there and he's smoking his pipe. And she kind of encounters him, engages with him, and he says this. He says, "Who are you?" And Alice responds by saying, well, this is a kind of an unusual, I'm paraphrasing, this is a kind of an unusual question to begin a conversation. I didn't expect that. Then she goes on to ponder, and she says, well, I knew who I was when I got up this morning, but there's been so many changes. And she's beginning to question, who she is. Well, that's what the caterpillar is asking her. Who are you? In life, this is a very important question to be able to answer for yourself. Who am I? What did God make you to be? What does God want you to do? Now, in 43, pretty soon to be going on 44 years of ministry, this is a question that people would just throw up their hands whenever I've asked it. What's your gifts and talents? Who are you? You know, and it seems as though the majority of people don't really know who they are. So I'm going to give you a little help here, and I'll work it into this detoxing, and then this is going to go a long way for you with anxiety, depression, and so on. First of all, gifts and talents are given by God, and they're pretty easy to discover if you just take the time to know yourself. That was what the Greeks, one of their famous sayings, and a good one: "Know thyself." Know your strengths, know your weaknesses. This is who you are. An insight into yourself combined with the scriptures, applying the scriptures to yourself. I do this ever since I started reading the Bible. I rarely apply it to other people other than to help them, of course, as a pastor, teaching. But I'm always thinking of, myself. Some things don't apply to me so much. Weaknesses, faults, sin. Others very, very much. This is me. And that's not you. So we have to be able to answer the question that Alice was a little confused about, and she's probably representative of the majority of people. Who are you? And once you discover who you are, and as the Greeks would say, and you know yourself, weaknesses, strengths, you're going to accent your strengths, make them stronger. You're going to look at your weaknesses and work your way out of them. These are the things that are holding you back more than people, which is what I was accenting last week. More than just people holding you back, making your life toxic. The most important person to correct and change, and the only one that you can, is yourself. Just very quickly, I thought, maybe people have tuned into this broadcast, which is kind of just starting, even though it's been, 8 weeks now, I think, maybe 9. We're in the very beginning stages of this thing. And the temptation is to look out. I just talked about your outer environment, your community, your job. Those things count, but basically what you want to change is yourself. How you respond to a situation, how you view a situation. We got to do this through the lens of the Bible. You got to know the Bible. And so we look at all these people, environment, all of this stuff, and it can be very toxic, as I went through this with you last week. But and you do want to find yourself, by the way, in the Bible it says people of like precious faith, have fellowship with them. Find people who are going in the direction that you're going in. And the people who are not going in your direction doesn't mean you don't love them or you don't like them. It just means we're not going in the same direction. The Bible also says, how can two walk together except they be agreed which way we're going? If someone's going this way, you're attached, you're trying to go this way, there's a constant tension which is going to impede your growth. And in this subject of anxiety and depression, it's going to impede your freedom, being free from these things. So it's very, very important that you are able to answer the question, who are you? Be able to say, this is who I am. For instance, how I discovered this, and wasn't a huge revelation, and it won't be for you. I just thought of all the things that come naturally for me. Music was always my number one gift, and I'm ashamed to say that I didn't do much with it throughout my life, and I'm changing that now. See, I take my own advice before I give it to you. Changing that now. Well, I've always had a gift of observation and a good mind. I love to read. I've been a reader all my life, and I don't forget what I read. So that's a gift. I like to read. I just always did. I didn't have to work at it. Maybe you do. Not your gift. You should still read. but it's not your gift. Whereas for me, it's relaxing. I enjoy it, and I don't forget. So these are gifts. Okay, so you have, for me, some intelligence there, and then you have music, which always came very naturally for me, whether it was singing or other instruments or hearing sounds. I was born with perfect pitch. Well, if you just take those two alone, there's, in my life there's some others, but if you just take those two alone, it becomes self-evident who you are, who I am, what God made me to be. So what you want to do is follow those lines. Now, here's again some key mistakes I made in my life. Not taking the time to really know who I was and what I was created to do. I made a lot of errors. Led me down paths where I should not only sin, just led me down paths where I shouldn't have been. I was uncomfortable. I didn't feel good about it. But you live and learn, right? That's what they tell us. You live and you learn. Well, I'm learning, and I hope that you are too. I'm not that person. I don't do that. I don't do this. This is what I do. And, even at this stage of my life, it becomes pretty exciting to know, wow, I'm really finally following my gifts and talents of who I am. It doesn't matter if somebody comes and contradicts me, that you should be doing this. First of all, if it's imposing enough in my life, I'll just tell them straight out, leave me alone. I do what I'm created to do. If not, I detach, which is the advice I'm giving to you. Detach from all toxicity as much as you can. We went through that last week. As much as you can, as much as you are able to. Okay, who are you? Sit down and think of the things, and usually the things that come easy is very pleasurable. There's you could sit down and just say, well, what do I do that just comes easy, comes naturally? You got a gift. Now there's spiritual gifts too. I won't talk about them today, that develop as you're growing in the Lord. But just to stick with the general topic of gifts and talents, your personality. Are you well? If you're listening to this broadcast on a regular basis, you're a sensitive person. That's good. Make you sensitive to other people to help them. Bad side is overdoing things. Another fault of mine. Overdoing things, especially when it came to people. And as Roberto Duran said once in a fight, no más, no more. I've learned. You overdo it. Somebody has once said, a man's strength, woman's strength, person's strength, their weakness is their strength overdone, overused. When you take your strength and you use it too much, it becomes your weakness. And I think that that's true in a lot of areas. Your weakness is something you're actually good at, strong at. It's your strength, but you're overdoing it. Well, to answer the question, who am I? God, what did you make me to be? What am I supposed to be? I once told a young person, he was asking about it, he said, I don't want to take a job and go to school, and then realized 25 years later in my 40s that I was in the wrong place. And I said, well, that's good insight. That's a really good perspective for a young person. I said, for me, I'm blessed, because if I were to do my life all over again, I would still be a preacher. So that's a blessing for me. It's not always easy. And I've had plenty of opportunities to really want to quit and do something else, but I know what I'm made of. See, I know who I am. And I'm comfortable, as I tell people often, I'm comfortable in my skin. I just am. I'm comfortable being me. I don't have to mimic somebody else. All right, let me narrow this down for you before we finish. What does this have to do with anxiety, depression, you may say? Well, you'll be surprised. You will be able to overcome so many obstacles in life if you know what your destiny is. Now, for those of us born again, we know Christ. Heaven is the destination. Okay. But we don't all have the same part in the body of Christ. You must know who you are, what your part is, and remember I told you this. You only live to please God. If other people are pleased with your life, that's great. It's a bonus. And if they're not, you keep moving on. Don't worry about people. Don't worry about what they're going to say, what they're going to think, because like I said once before, they're going to talk behind your back anyway, so give them something to talk about. Occasionally I would do this. I would say, you know what, this guy's going to talk about me anyway, so let me give him something to talk about. But that's me. You don't copy me. Not anyway. Um, so once you know who you are, just sit down and you say to yourself, what things come easier for me? Let's start with art. You could use draw. Well, that's a gift from God. Not everybody can draw. You get someone to draw. It's a stick guy. Every picture's got a stick figure in it. One of my granddaughters, when she's 8 years old, and man, can she draw? Well, that's a gift. Maybe not something to make a living at, but something to always have in your life and develop it all the time. So you sit down and you think to yourself, well, what things do I do really well and I'm good at? There you go. When you find your gift and your talent, which is really not difficult to figure out, maybe the details may be, but not difficult to figure out, then you move in that. And you're starting on the journey to learn and to answer the question, who are you? This will greatly reduce anxiety, because when it comes up against you and other depression, other things, you'll be able to move through it because you know who you are, where you should be, where you shouldn't be, and it reduces the stress. Now, that was the whole point. It reduces the stress on your life because you're able to say yes with a free will and say, yeah, sure, yeah, I'll help you out. But you're also able to say, no, I wish I could help you, but I can't. See, that's freedom. The ability to say yes willfully, and not be as so many, I want to say people, but so many of us have been and say, yeah. When really, it's not your calling, it's not what you were called to do, but we'll always feel obligated. Christians, by the way, are clever enough, some of them, to be able to say to you, well, you're supposed to be a Christian, or other Christians just say, what would Jesus do? That's a good question. Study his life. His mission always was first, just like in the military and just like in combat. Mission is always first. Your mission is to be free from anxiety and depression and other things. So I thank you for being with me here today, and I ask for your continued prayers for me as I work on my dissertation here on the subject of eschatology. Writing academically is laborious. I wouldn't say difficult as much as laborious. And would appreciate your prayers for me in general. I pray for you. Some of you are writing to me, asking for prayer. You're being specific about it. We're doing this in private because this subject here, you're not going to get a lot of comments other than, thanks for helping me and stuff like that. But it's a type of subject that's difficult to talk about in public and put it out there for everybody. So don't worry about it. You pray for me, I pray for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Pastor Ray Barnett. Very easy. You're already on the channel now, so you know, just subscribe, hit the notification button, because we've already had 2 days where I didn't upload anything. So at least you'll know. If you don't see a notification or you don't get a notification, you'll know that day I didn't produce a video. And there's going to be times when I'm going to do quick ones. When something comes to my mind, I don't want to forget it, I'll put the camera on, get going with it, do a short thing, and get back off again. You don't want to miss that. Okay. Thanks for being with me here today on God's answers for anxiety and depression. And God willing, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay? God bless. Thanks for being with me.